It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM and AM 1160. Good morning to you. Our conversation this morning with Marshall Chriswell, as we're a little bit late with the segment, but we get it on. Our radio program intended to be for informational purposes only. The information does not constitute legal advice. The law is constantly changing, and the information may not be complete or correct depending on the date and your particular legal problem. Each legal problem depends on its individual facts, and different jurisdictions have different laws and regulations. And because of that, you should not act or rely on any information in this segment without seeking the advice of a competent attorney licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction for your particular problem. And he is Marshall Chriswell. Good morning.
Good morning, Todd. How are you?
Wonderful. It's been a while. My goodness.
It has been a little while. I'm happy to be back.
What have you been, sitting around watching movies or something?
Yeah.
How's that for a segue for you? We're doing something different this morning. You want to talk about movies that we see on TV or at the movie theater, and how what you see on a movie screen might not necessarily pass muster in an actual courtroom. How's that for a setup for you?
There you go. And so you think about all of the great movies that involve lawyers and law and courtroom drama, and and what makes these movies so great, and the fact that they set up they pit good versus evil, and all of the high drama that comes with the legal cases. In thinking about this, I just was going through in my mind some of the greatest lawyer movies of all time. Topping my list is always To Kill a Mockingbird. Mm-hmm. Fantastic movie. I have a dog named Atticus. This is far and away my favorite movie and book and everything. But there's so many great ones. Classics like 12 Angry Men, mm-hmm. A Few Good Men. You got just so many. A Time to Kill, the John Grisham novels that have been converted into movies.
You can't handle the truth, Marshall.
But that you can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth. Well, yeah. Here's the thing. Let's talk about a couple of the things that they're fairly common to a bunch of these movies, and one of those is the surprise witness. That's a staple, especially of older courtroom movies. That's just kind of hard to pull off in today's environment, isn't it?
The surprise witness, it can be very difficult to pull off. Surprises in general at trial are very uncommon. In modern legal practice, both sides exchange information prior to trial, usually far ahead of trial, through a process called discovery, where you've got to tell the other side, these are this is all the documents that we have related to the case. They do depositions where you put witnesses under oath and question them, so you know basically what their testimony is going to be at trial, and if they change their story at trial, you've got issues there. So, going into a trial, generally, who the witnesses are going to be, what the evidence is that's going to be presented, even what the objections are going to be sometimes, because you can imagine, okay, they're going to object to this issue, this is how we're going to respond. So there are very few surprises at trial.
Yeah, well, that objections thing that you just raised is another thing. The very idea of here's an objection and it's a vociferous one, and the judge can deny it or the judge can allow the question to stand, and the idea that, the jury heard it anyway, and telling them to disregard it isn't going to make all that much difference.
Yeah, that's true. And what you see in the movies is the counsel stands up at the table and says, objection, and is pounding on the table, and the judge makes this dramatic ruling that changes the course of the trial. Mm-hmm. And, there are some objections that get made that are very, very pivotal and important, but most of the time they are objections to things like hearsay and whether a document has been properly authenticated to be admitted to evidence. and some arcane, kind of legal objections that, a layperson sitting in the courtroom would say, "What the heck is going on?"
Yeah.
And they're very, very rarely the way that they're portrayed on the TV and in movies.
It's been a few years since I've covered a trial. I think the last time I did, Michael Handler was the Indiana County District Attorney. But it seems to be very, very rare where an attorney, either a prosecutor or a defense attorney, can get away with absolutely berating the witness into bullying them a little bit into a confession of some sort. That doesn't happen either, does it?
Right. So if you grew up watching Matlock or what's the one with Raymond Burr?
Perry Mason.
Perry Mason, and even the movie that I mentioned, A Few Good Men. Right. There's that famous scene that we were just recounting where Jack Nicholson is the general and he's on the stand and he's yelling back at Tom Cruise, and he finally admits, yes, I ordered the code red, and that stuff. You don't get courtroom confessions. It rarely happens that you have a witness break down and confess on the stand. But in TV, it can happen every week.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. And of course, when you have all the courtroom shows now, Steve Harvey's a judge now on top of everything else. Those are not meant to be taken seriously by any means. But I've sort of dominated this conversation. What were some of the ones, some of your favorites that you'd like to point out that aren't necessarily congruous with what happens in a law room? In a
well, one of the greatest and long-running legal shows is Law and Order, and I love it as much as a lot of people do. But when watching shows like that, one of the things that always stands out to me is that they can take a case from the police investigation, the law enforcement charging the suspect. And going through the prosecution process and getting to trial and getting a verdict, and everybody being happy generally with the outcome, all in the course of about half an hour. And that is just not the way it works in real life. The length of time, and whenever you have a client come in and they have a case and they we're going through what the process is like. One of the things that is very important and is sometimes very difficult to explain to a client is the length of time that's involved with the process.
Yeah.
These cases, particularly civil litigation, I mean, you can be involved in a case for 9 months, a year, 2 years, just depending on the nature of the issues. And so that is something that always stands out to me as to how quickly they can get things resolved.
Yeah, well, the idea of continual continuances doesn't necessarily make good movies.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's interesting. One of the best legal movies that actually portrays the procedure really, really well, and the way that the witnesses are examined and the rulings that the judge makes, probably very surprising. The movie My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Judge Fred Munster up there?
Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei.
Yeah, absolutely.
That movie is they actually, I know in law school, and I know they do this in the police academies as well, some of them, they actually show the courtroom scenes in that movie. And it's a good way to get people engaged in a classroom. But you can go through and really teach a pretty good trial procedure class using the courtroom scenes in My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah, I'd like to get your opinion on Anatomy of a Murder. I know you haven't seen it in a while, but I really like the way that one plays out in the courtroom as well. But it's interesting from an attorney standpoint, as you're an attorney and you deal with clients that come in, they probably have their conceptions about what happens in a courtroom based upon what they've seen in movies and on TV. And probably for you, it's a bit of a chore right off the bat explaining to them that they do that in an hour, and it might take a year or 2 years before we have your case resolved. It doesn't work the way that you see it on TV.
That's right. That's right. And clients definitely will some clients will have perceptions based on what they've seen in popular culture or read in books. Another one is the idea that the opposing counsel have to be antagonistic towards each other in order to pursue a case.
Mm-hmm.
I get clients a lot of times are like, oh well, you must not like this person that's on the other side from you, or asking about what kind of a relationship you have with them and things. And you have to realize that as opposed to what you see in movies and TV, generally opposing counsel, we get along. I mean, there are obviously differences over the legal issues and all those things, but that antagonistic relationship that sometimes people expect, that doesn't really exist for the most part. Of course, just like any colleagues and working with people, you have folks you get along with better than others, but you try not to let emotion get involved in the case at all, and that's one of the benefits of having a lawyer is you can take emotion out of some of these things.
I'm guessing there's something else that happens in these movies that doesn't happen a whole lot, and that is as the attorney is working hard in the courtroom, somebody comes into the courtroom that has been working for him and just walks right up to him and whispers in his ear, and then he asks for a counsel with the judge, and that changes the whole case too, because they found some secret information. That probably doesn't happen a whole lot either, huh?
Yes, the new evidence that is obtained the moment before trial or during trial while a witness is on the stand. Nope, I have never seen that happen, and I doubt that I ever will. If you do have new evidence that comes up during a trial, it is going to be you're going to be hard pressed to get it admitted. Because of, as I explained, all the discovery and pretrial statements and everything that have to be exchanged beforehand. So it better be something really, really weighty and something that you had no way of obtaining before that moment. If you're gonna motion to admit new evidence.
So, do some of these movies sort of make you go, "Oh, that would never happen," and just ruin the movie for you?
It kind of used to, but I've gotten over it. It is, it shouldn't. The fact that a lot of these movies and shows don't comport with reality should not affect our ability to enjoy them. And so I've gotten past that, and I love all these classic movies.
All right. So of all of those ones, what is well, you've said already, My Cousin Vinny is a great one for folks to see what it's really like in a courtroom. Is there one or two others? One classic movie that I love, and of course it's unrealistic in one big way. There's a movie, 12 Angry Men, and I might have mentioned it earlier. Yeah.
That is I think that from all accounts, and despite the fact there are no 12 Angry Men, there are no women in the jury room, of course, back then. Mm-hmm. But the discussions and the conflict that occurs between the jurors, and how hard it is to come to a unanimous decision in a case as important as the murder case that they were deliberating in that movie. If you haven't seen it, the whole thing takes place in the jury room on a sweltering summer day with no air conditioning back in those days, and it is just really a fantastic portrayal of what a jury has to go through to decide those issues. I think
absolutely, and you don't want Rod Steiger in there with you either. You want him on that wall. You need him on that wall. He is Attorney Marshall Chriswell. Thanks so much for spending some time with us today. This has been a fun segment.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks, Todd.
Have a great day. It is the voice of Indiana County. It is the voice of Indiana County. It is the voice.